Jimmie, are you ready to join?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's great to have you here. Jimmie, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Jimmie Lee. I've been hanging around the Purple Book community here for about a year and a half or so, right after the inception. I've been working with and learning from, laughing with, solving problems with the 𝗕𝗄 now for a couple of years. So it's been very fun. I help collaborate on the Purple Book um, ebook here. It says I needed to start my video. There we go. So, and then prior to that, I did about 9 years at Facebook Meta, head of security applications, another 4 years at Microsoft security, both very deep in attack surface analysis and binary analysis, as well as PK operations and global facilities with highly sensitive data and assets, and then about 9 years at Boeing, full stack engineering.
Okay, so you got a deep application security background. What are your thoughts, and very active leader in Purple Book community? What are your thoughts on the state of software security today?
Well, the cool thing about, social media is more information is at the hands of people than ever before. And the ability to be able to interpret that data, our ability to reach people now through social media, just snippets of videos, advertising through Google, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, Meta, Instagram, right? It's just unparalleled, right? So you get this sense that people kind of are starting to understand cyber is a big thing. It's starting to become very disruptive to the average, citizen or person residing, within the US for one, but then globally elsewhere. I know more about the US than I do other nations in terms of how it interacts with directly to people. So I'll probably lean that way, but it's the same problem everywhere else. And so people are starting to like, my power's out. Why is my power out? Somebody attacked the substation, right? And so it's like, wait. Somebody hacked that car, right? Or my refrigerator, or somebody took out my printer. And so now the average person is starting to be impacted by cybersecurity in a way that, is never before so direct. And so when you relate that now to the corporate setting, to business, whether it be a small business owner or a large enterprise, people have some resemblance of awareness. I think so. I think we've solved the awareness problem, help people become more cognizant, maybe a little bit cautiously afraid of what could potentially happen as a means of risk to help them take action. But I think we're now starting to shift into this phase of giving people more context around the risk, around the dangers of what can happen with cybersecurity, and then starting to kind of pull them along into this awareness context, now take action mode, right? And so a lot of the businesses that I work with now, that I do a lot of advising 𝗕liche CTO work, a lot of businesses, a lot of corporations and enterprises, they understand they have a problem, but a lot of them sometimes see the solutions as too far out, too difficult, too complex, not simple, as a means of, I'm going to have to take a further loss in order to try to solve the problem. And so in that regard, you start to have these deep conversations around, okay, but the risk of not doing something is far greater than the revenue loss of shifting the team to start to focus more on application security. And so I think that over the next few years, hopefully we start to infuse more context into the more common understanding, because I'm starting to see people take business training, but if you're like me, and if they give you a way to challenge test out of your corporate training, you're going to sit there and go through 10 corporate training sessions in 30 minutes versus take the full 5 hours that they want you to take and watch all the videos, right? And so people are starting to get immune and desensitized to corporate business training. And so yes, they get the cyber training, but how that applies to everyday life and their everyday business, or for developers that are being tracked by the lines of code that they write in terms of their performance, their bonuses, right? That meets expectations, do not meet expectations. So now you're telling them that they have to slow down so their performance metrics take a hit for security of the company, but security is not their job. Their job is to be an engineer. So now with this context, we can try to help them understand what those risks are. And as more and more students come out of college more aware of cybersecurity, I think that this differentiation between cyber and engineering, cyber and application security and engineering, writing code and application security, will start to merge, and it'll start to be more common knowledge on how to write secure, data privacy protected code right the first time, so that the security teams and the security architects and the security engineers don't have to go there and slap them on the wrist and say, hey, you should have known better. Rewrite your code. They're like, hey man, nah, that feature's done. I'm on to my next one.
Yeah. Jimmie, I love that. And, you've been doing this for so long. I have tried in the past, I tried to explain Boehm's law to CEOs, because as you said, we need to slow down, right? And very often the developers, they're going to do what they're incented to do. If you're incenting them by lines of code or by functionality and not security, why would they focus on security, right? So that's kind of a top-down part. But how do we educate the top on the importance of it? Because like I said, I've tried to explain Boehm's laws, the financial importance of shifting left, but I still have never felt that I've really broken through to some executives with that it really is cheaper. And to the point that you might get a kick out of this, I was explaining to one CEO as we were implementing a software development lifecycle that was more secure for a company. I said, this is taking too long, it's costing too much money. And, I again tried to explain, and he said, well, what if they just don't test any of the code? Just write it, put it out there, and it's going to change so quickly that we're going to basically run between the raindrops of attackers. What would you say to that? How do we address that pushback?
It's difficult. It's difficult. I will say that I at my time at Microsoft and studying, at least Steve Littner just retired and passed the baton to Matt Tomlinson, right? A lot of people don't really understand where some of this, the language from the SOC certifications and the ISO 27001 certifications came from.
Yes.
Microsoft dumped millions and millions and millions of dollars early days, partially because it's kind of their fault. Like PCs and servers were everywhere, right? So they had a responsibility, but they dumped so much money into research. A lot of the context came out of this, right? And I was blessed to be on the teams, and one of my responsibilities was attack surface analysis, binary analysis, and some of the kernel communications that were happening lower on into the architecture stack. And so we had this thing called, as you said, SDLC, Security Development Lifecycle. So I wrote some of those contents and pushed out some of those tools to the open web, open source them for everybody else to use, built off of Mike Howard's security tools toolset, right? And it was hard because in Microsoft, you had to pass through the SDLC unless your SVP opted out. And they pushed out a feature, because there might have been one or two different blocking bugs. And so everybody saw it as an impediment. Right. And so back in those days, there weren't degrees, there weren't certifications. And so the only way to really incentivize the engineers was helping them understand how they were going to become a better engineer and how it was actually going to make them more money.
Yeah.
And so if you help them understand, hey, this is going to help you write better code. You don't actually have to slow down if you allow me to help coach you on these different facets. You can write it the first time, like, don't divide by zero, right? Some of those very simple things in the code that they can be such a stickler. And so sometimes I think at the engineering level, it's easier to kind of help them understand how it's going to benefit them personally and benefit the company. And they can find a way where they're not impacted. I mean, it's just more and more and more. At the leadership level, I think you have to use case studies. And I think that's where you have to say, okay, yes, we won't call people, like, I don't know how wide this recording is going to go. And it kind of sucks to call up my, your CISO friends that are going to have to deal with the blowback of this person said something in video. But
you don't need to
there are
name
companies
names
out there, right, that
okay.
Specifically ignore the guidance, just like you said, puts out the feature, and the loss and the reputational impact of the company was so great that it took everybody, the entire executive team, the entire board. Right now, your loss of revenue is so hard. Right now, we're having these financial impacts through inflation and through other economical and socio-political and global economic factors that kind of drive a shift of business. But in those times when it's good, and then you have these major financial disruptors, that starts to help you kind of really understand, okay, maybe it's better to take that loss of speed now and then be able to come in later with another feature. I think the other thing to do with some of these key execs is having this conversation of, do you always have to be first? Is being first now worth the loss of financial impact through reputation and through poor hygiene, as well as, I think you've been around engineering for a long time. I'm assuming I haven't looked you up on LinkedIn, but, everybody understands agile and iteration zero, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just have to figure out where you're going to take your tech debt. And so as a leader, if you can, forecast the next few years, you can say, okay, I'm going to take my hit here. And then you can start to set a culture throughout the rest of the organization that says, okay, we're all going into iteration zero. And I've seen a couple of leaders do this for entire departments before. And it really helps with the cultural impacts of saying, okay, everybody's performance now is going to align with iteration zero. Now we have a few ops folks, but for everybody else, it's okay to focus on tech debt. It's okay to focus on security budgets. It's okay for us to kind of retool ourselves. It's okay for us to get some training, to bring some people in. We're going to take this concerted time and we're going to shift. But what that also does as an organization, especially for culture, is, okay, now everybody's been trained. Expectations now have shifted. We've had our iteration zero. Now, no excuses. We need everybody to align here. And if you're not aligning here, then that's a different conversation that we need to have.
It's such an amazing insight. Thank you so much. This has been incredible. Anything you want to leave the audience with? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just say that I saw somebody in a previous talk about the security professional or the security architect or engineer or the person that's smart about security helping you make these decisions. I'd say that is a key contributor factor. I think right now with the financial impactors, getting a good advisor or hiring or elevating somebody within your organization that is smart here and giving them a platform is going to be key. It's not as hard as it looks. We're all making tough decisions right now. So now is the perfect time, since we're in loss season for business, take your loss now. Use this time, use this opportunity to retool your organization and your company and move it in a different direction. Everybody's listening to board, everybody. So now's the time to take this as an opportunity to really seed in. Let's fix our security now. And let's take that loss in terms of time or speed or feature development for the better of the organization.
That is such great advice, and completely agree. If I have had that pushback of it's gonna extend our dev cycle. Well, you have the opportunity to learn. What ultimately happens is it speeds up the cycles, but you have to do that work in upfront. So I love this. You're saying this is a great time, get that work done. Thank you so much.
It's exponential. You always catch up. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.